We've had Groundhog Day as a slasher. We've had Freaky Friday as a slasher. Now we've got Back to the Future as a slasher. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the future of my channel. We are back with another review, back with our October series. We're starting off October in a totally killer way, if you know what I mean, because we just watched Totally Killer, which is the new Amazon original film. It just released this weekend on Amazon Prime, and it stars Kieran Shipka. And basically what the premise is it is like Back to the Future as a slasher. It's sort of like if you did Scream meets Back to the Future. That's what this kind of feels like a little bit. Because it's got that tone of like Scream or a Happy Death Day, but with the Back to the Future kind of vibe. Because what it is one night on Halloween, there's this killer that's gone around that's killed these 3 girls back in like 1987, and they're trying to explore that case. It was never really solved or anything, and so what happens is, so you find out Kieran Shipka's mom was connected to all those people, and so there's a certain thing that happens. I'm not going to say what it is. There's a certain thing that happens, and then basically she gets warped back into time and travel. Kieran Shipka's character, she travels all the way back to 1987 to where she has to stop the events of what just occurred and try to see if she can make her life in the present back to the way it was. So it's a fun movie, very, very fun time. Got some, of course, follows the great slasher tropes. You know, it's got some great kills in there. Got some great jump scares in there. You got some funny comedy in there to lighten it up a bit. And I love the aesthetic in this movie, like the contrast of like 1987 and like present day. And I like how it's almost like they both coexist together, because you see how a lot of the girls act in modern day are like how they acted in 1987. And it's very interesting the way that they do that. But it's like they still had a little bit of like, you know, I don't really like a ton of wokeness in my movie and such, and this did a good job not doing that too badly. But I will say that the scene, there's like certain scenes, I'm not going to give them away, but there's certain scenes where someone says something. And back in 1987, you know, it was a lot less strict. So there wasn't as, you know, many laws, or wasn't as many, like it was a lot less strict and such. So people said certain things. And so she'll speak out on it like, well, that's kind of problematic, or, you know, that statement came across as something, because she's in the modern world talking to someone from 1987. So it's kind of an interesting comparison there. But yeah, Kieran Shipka is great in this movie. She's really always great. Although there was one scene she did fake crying in, and she was actually really bad in that scene. But everything else in this film, she was actually pretty good in. She, from what I've seen her in, she is in some great stuff. She was in the Sabrina the Teenage Witch Netflix series that they did for a little bit there. She was in Mad Men for a little bit. She was really, really young in Mad Men. But she also was in that one movie. Where is it at? The Blackcoat's Daughter. That's when I became like a major fan of her. Was in A24's The Blackcoat's Daughter. If y'all have not seen that movie, check it out this Halloween season. That is a great ass movie. And so she was in that film. And so that is what I remember her from. And so she's a great actress. She did a really good job. She led this role. She was funny. She's charismatic, had a lot of heart, you know, really made you care for her. Like, yeah, she did a good job. And I was really, really impressed. And everyone in this movie does a great job. Olivia Holt is in this, who plays the 1987 version of her mother, because she gets to see her mother and all the people. That's one cool thing. She gets to see her mother and all the cool people from the present timeline and such. She sees them all in the different, all in like their different younger forms in 1987. So it's really, really cool. But yeah, this girl, Olivia Holt, she was in Cloak and Dagger, which I watched a little bit of, but what I remember her from was Kicking It as Kim Crawford. Oh yeah, I grew up with that show. Disney XD's best show. Come at me. It's true, guys. You know it's true. But yeah, so she was always great in that. So it was great to see Olivia Holt in something like this now, and I would love to see both Kieran Shipka and her in the Scream movie. Speaking of Scream, Liana Liberato from Scream 6, who, spoilers are allowed for Scream 6 now, guys. She turned out to be one of the killers in Scream 6, but she is a really good actress. She was in this movie as well. And then you also had the dad in this too, played by Lachlan Munro, who I didn't recognize. I recognized him instantly, actually. But he played Greg in Scary Movie. He played Deputy Scott in Freddy vs. Jason. And like he was, he also was in Peacemaker as like a cop too. I remember that. So yeah, he's a great actor. So it's filled to the brim with a great cast. And just telling you, I know Christopher Landon's doing it now, but I just gotta say, if the day comes and looking for another Scream director, not Shika Khan. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Would be a great pick to do a Scream movie, because this has that same kind of vibe, that same feel to it. I really, really dug her direction and what she did. And it's a female director. We don't see that often. That's really, really cool. So, especially in horror. So that's really nice. And yeah, the kills in this were great. I mentioned that earlier, but they were pretty fun. And then, it had a good soundtrack because it's 1987, and it had, and I was watched it with my mom, so my mom was able to be like, "Oh, that's what we wore. That's what we, this and that," and she was able to really get into it too because of that nostalgia for her. And I really like the killer a lot. I will say this: I don't like the mask. The mask looks cheap as hell. I was not a fan of the mask at all. I don't know what the mask was inspired off of, what they even tried to go with the mask. Like Happy Death Day, the baby face one, that's interesting. That's cool. But like, and some of the other masks that we've seen in horror are really cool. But for whatever reason, this one just didn't really work for me. Don't know why. Wasn't really a fan of it. But I will say the killer himself was pretty cool. I like the killer. I like the way he moved. I like the way he killed and all that stuff. And there's a twist with the killer at one point. I'm not going to give it away here, because this movie literally just came out, and I can do a spoiler, like a live spoiler discussion if you guys want me to later on. But this is a movie it's not hard to talk about it without spoiling it. I can still give you guys a review and not have to spoil the film. So yeah, it is. So yeah, I thought the killer did a really, really good job. And it's the style of it, editing, all that stuff. It's really, really well done. Now, it ain't perfect. It's by no means perfect. It definitely has some issues with it. And the issues I would say this film has is at times the dialogue got very cringy. There were certain lines in this that I was like, hey, that's a cringe line. I was like, you do not need to say that line. But there's some like things that like that's not how teenagers would actually talk, that kind of thing. It was like maybe he was trying to satire teenagers. I don't know, but I was like, that's not how teenagers would talk, and it just took me out of the movie a bit. So that was something that I kind of had an issue with. I also had an issue with the fact that like some things in this film didn't really make sense. obviously you're going to get that with Back to. There is a great line in this where they ask the character, Have you watched like Back to the Future and such?" And they're like, "No, I don't watch the time travel movies. They never make sense." And it's like it is funny because a lot of the time travel movies have plot holes. This one probably has a couple plot holes in there. There's a couple of things that don't make sense, but if you put your brain, if you just don't try to focus on that and just have an entertaining time, that's what this is. This is an entertaining, fun romp of a movie that I very much enjoyed. But there's one thing that actually bothered me that didn't make sense about certain characters. And I was like, where were they when this happened? They literally were just in the other room. Why did that happen? And it was like a very weird thing. I was like, why would it didn't really make any sense to me there. And of course, like I said, the look of the mask, I wasn't really a fan of that. Made it look like a really bad, like Giga Chad kind of looked in. Maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know. But wasn't really a fan of that. I also liked how it took. I will say I liked how it. Oh, I forgot that actor was in it too. Randall Park. Yeah, I forgot Randall Park was in this movie for a second there. Yeah, he was great in it as one of the sheriffs and deputies. So if there's a great scene with him too in DNA. If y'all seen the movie, I know what it is. But it is really cool too how this movie like takes place around Halloween, so it's perfect time for the spooky season. And it like has that kind of Halloween time aesthetic, I guess you can say. And then also, like there's a scene in a haunted house and such, like one of those like haunted, not like a haunted house, but you know what I mean, like the amusement park kind of haunted houses that you go into. And that was really fun. I always love it when they have that, and like the production design, stuff like that was all really well done. So yeah, overall, guys, I mean, those are my positives and negatives. Overall, guys, great time. It's a fun movie. If you guys are looking for that, go and watch Totally Killer. You will have a totally killer time with this one. I promise you. You will not want to miss out on this one if you're a horror fan. Even if you're not a horror fan, I'm so happy that this is like released this weekend because this is a bad weekend for horror. I haven't seen it yet, but from what I've heard, all my people telling me Exorcist Believer was bad, like really, really bad, apparently. And then on top of all that, like the new Pet Cemetery Bloodlines, I watched that and that was bad. Y'all can expect a review for that at some point. That was a bad movie. And so I'm just like, and I heard VHS 85 was just kind of okay. So it's been kind of a rough weekend for movies. So I'm glad that we have Kieran, or I'm glad we have Totally Killer out to actually give us a good film this weekend that we can watch. I really wish it was released in theaters. I would have paid. Well, I don't pay money because I do Regal Unlimited. But even if I didn't have Regal Unlimited, I would have paid money to see this in a theater. This would have been such a fun movie to see with a packed crowd in a cinema. Doing something like that. Like it would have been so much more fun rather than sitting at home watching this. Like Pet Cemetery Bloodlines, I could have done with that on streaming. That's fine. Exorcist Believer, throw that on streaming. Put this one in theaters. Like that. This is the one that should have been in theaters. That would have been a way better decision than just putting it straight onto Amazon Prime. But it is what it is, guys. That's what we seem to be living in right now. We seem to be living in a time when movies that should be coming to theaters are going to streaming, like Prey, No One Will Save You, stuff like that. These movies where you would go to the theater to see them are being dumped on streaming. But in this case, don't let it go overlooked, guys. Definitely check out Totally Killer. It's one of my favorite horror movies of the year. In an overall weak year for horror, but I will give you my ranking of all the best horror movies I've seen this year so far, this month actually. So you guys can be on the lookout for that and much, much more, guys. That'll be it for this section. I might do a quick little yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do a quick little spoiler section. So bow out now, but definitely see totally killer reference to Halloween with totally.
Totally insane. I'll be totally wiped out.
I totally never show.
Totally charted.
Totally.
Totally.
Totally silly.
Yeah, it's totally dark.
She's totally not here.
Totally.
So go see Totally Killer on Amazon Prime this weekend when you get the chance. You don't want to miss it. So spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Go. And boom. All right. So I wanted to talk about real quick in the spoiler section, the plot twist with Jonathan Potts' character, who is the podcaster he's obsessed with the case. He's trying to figure out all about the Sweet 16 murder, because he kills all the killers on their Sweet 16 birthdays, stuff like that. So he's the interesting plot twist is that he is shows up at the end, and he is actually the one that kills her mother in the film. If you saw the movie, kills her mom. You shouldn't be watching this if you haven't seen the movie. Spoiler section, but kills her mother, and then he's trying to continue the story. Doug, who was one of the other characters in the film previously, the teen version of Doug, he was seen previously as the killer in the original timeline, and he was actually the principal as an adult. So it's interesting. He's the principal as an adult, but he was actually the killer in the teenage timeline. He killed both those girls back when they were younger, and then or the 3 girls, I should say. It was 3 girls that died, yeah. He killed those 3 girls, and then now this new podcaster killed the mom in the present day, and he borrows her friend's time travel machine to pretty much go back to 1987 and try to kill the daughter, but then she has a fight with him, and honestly, it's very anticlimactic, I thought personally. The fight I was like, oh, that was over quick. Okay. He just kind of gets shot into something and explodes, which is fun, but it's kind of anticlimactic. Same with Doug's death. Doug, whenever they confront him and everything, he dies super quickly, and it's like, oh, well, that was anticlimactic. So, stuff like that, I guess, just happens. But that was something kind of interesting I wanted to bring up in the quick spoiler section, was that that was an interesting twist. I kind of saw it coming too. I was like, yeah, especially once they show a scene where all of a sudden the daughter is on the floor, and the older version of Lauren Creston, who's her mother, she runs in there being like, what just happened? What just happened? Oh my gosh. And she picks up her daughter and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, well, the only person that was with her was him. It was a weird edit. It was a weird just cut to that all of a sudden. I was like, oh, what? That's weird. So I was like, the only person that was with her was, Chris Dubasage, which is the podcaster. So I kind of predicted it, but it was still a fun twist once it was revealed. Fun time, all that kind of stuff. But the other stuff I want to talk about in the spoiler section was the kills. They were bloody, they were fine. Getting the one girl getting stabbed on the water bed was probably my favorite death of them all. But the one in the cabin, that was kind of fine-ish. And then there is a few other moment, and the fake crying scene I want to talk about real quick. Fake crying scene that was bad for me, now that we're in the spoiler section, is whenever the mom dies and Kieran Shipka's character is crying after that, it's a really badly done crying scene. I'm sorry, guys. It just was. And her dad, I wish that they actually would have shown her dad's reaction to the mom dying. They never actually showed the dad's reaction to the mom dying. You just saw him see her one day. He's like, "Hey, how are you holding up?" Blah blah, all that stuff. I was like, "Where was your reaction? That was your wife. I want to see you like react." Like, unless I missed something, I might have looked down on something. I might have missed it real quick, but I really wanted to see that because I think that would have been emotional. It did a good job at kicking in the emotions there a few times. But yeah, she was great throughout the film. Just that one fake crying scene. And then, yeah, I forgot to mention my non-spoiler session. The chemistry between all the ladies were really great. I thought they were all really, really well done. But then I also wanted to point out, let's see. Do I have anything else to really point out? I mean, I talked about yeah, some of the things that don't really make sense. I don't know if the ending fully makes sense. Like, she's what, like another daughter now, because she has a brother that apparently, like, she set it up to where like they hooked up sooner than she initially expected. It was kind of weird. I'm kind of confused by the ending just slightly, but once I rewatch it again, I'll probably understand the ending more. And I definitely will rewatch it again because this is something that is so energetic, so fun. I could rewatch it over and over and over again and never get bored. So I'll definitely have my opportunities to see it more and more. I am so beyond happy that this movie was this so good, guys. Definitely check it out if y'all haven't, because y'all will not be disappointed in the slightest, especially if you're a slasher fan and a Scream fan, and time travel kind of fan stuff. And I never watched a trailer or nothing for this movie. So I went in, all I heard was Back to the Future meets Scream. And I was like, sold. That's all I need to know. I didn't even see it. I just heard that premise and that was it. That's all I needed to hear. So I went in completely blind. But yeah, it is definitely a fun time. So make sure you guys make the totally killer decision of hitting that like button, subscribing, sharing, doing all that fun stuff. Ring that notification bell so that you never miss a video. And then coming up on the channel is several reviews for you guys. Pet Sematary Bloodlines, which came out this weekend. Eventually we'll be doing my review for the new Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I'll also be attending the Virginia Film Festival this year, so I'll be giving you a bunch of reviews from the Virginia Film Festival, including one horror movie that will be premiering there, so that'll be fun. So there's definitely a lot of stuff to be looking forward to, and of course, the monthly drinking game. Always got to do that. We're thinking Halloween Resurrection this month, so stay tuned for that. That'll be a fun one. That, and of course, so much more. Thank you all, guys, for watching this video. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your night. Until next time, stay spooky, my friends, and keep on watching those scary movies.